Unconcealment and Tolerability. As we know, Heidegger tirelessly insisted on the revelation that the Greek word for truth, aletheia, was composed of the word for the dark, hidden, forgotten, leth, and its negation. The philosophical genius of the Greeks became apparent to him from this inconspicuous fact. If the ordinary vocabulary of a people defines truth as a negative of hiddenness and forgetting, we are dealing with a language that effortlessly thinks the most profound thoughts. Heidegger thought that he could expect as much of German and translated the Greek aletheia with the term unconcealment, Unverborgenheit. Although the Humboldtian translation of the word as overtness was philosophically slightly more correct, it was philosophically significantly inferior. Philologically slightly more correct, philosophically slightly inferior. If the unconcealment belongs to the truth, then its fate falls together with the event through which it becomes unconcealed. With disclosure, arising, revelation, and the opposite event that leads to forgetting and a second concealment. The disclosing revelation through which all that is rational and proportionate is laid open is itself neither rational nor proportionate. The space of the true as the unconcealed pops up singularly like an island full of commensurable conditions from an ocean of incommensurability and disproportion, where humans are. And that's where the forefield of the covertly monstrous can also be found. Their cultures populate a zone that is both paradise and volcano, an ontological Hawaiian and Lanzarote effect. With his term clearing, Lichtung, Heidegger, the hesitant heir of European light metaphysics, has reminded us of the eventful rise of a graspable space for proportionalities, because he not only sees the visible in the clearing, but also visibility. He understands himself not as an enlightener, but as a seer. While the enlightener practices a phosphoric light-making praxis and uses light as a tool for illuminating the substance, the seer lingers in the deeds and sufferings of light. Imagining is not seeing. For the one who really sees, the eye is an ear of light. What would Brecht the enlightener have to say about Heidegger the seer? He would probably make a small distinction. So far, he would say, everything is very simple, even if metaphysical terms are all Greek to someone like me. But even a child gets it that what the seer does here corresponds precisely to what takers do in boxing. The seer is a philosopher because he endures something, and he endures something because he is a real man, and besides it comes from his position. I, however, would like to, from now on, recognise another seeing, both taking and giving in a boxing match. Otherwise, though, as I said, I want to remain in agreement with those who endure something. For a taker, unconcealment does not mean visibility, but tolerability. For what is to be taken at all moves in the range between what is quite easy to do and what cuts unbearably deep. It's not so much the limits of illumination and visibility that separate the concealed from the unconcealed, but stress limits, pain limits, tolerability limits. It is not what one has heard or read about the world that decides one's understanding of the world, but what one has gone through and endured from it. If one admits that philosophy, as soon as it is dealing with the whole, speaks only in serious puns anyway, then at the critical point one would have to talk not about the clearing, but about the direction. The projects of culture and enlightenment are less about the spread of light and more about the overpowering of burdens. Ever since humans have felt the will to know, they have been interested not so much in elucidation as in alleviation. And it is only because there are elucidations that are also alleviations, or lead to alleviations, that intellect and insight are so popular. A metaphysical determination of the playing field of all analogies where truths can become apparent to us leads to the original liaison between the recognizable and the tolerable, the lucid and the easy. For endurance is the most authoritative of all ratios to emerge to us out of the disproportionate and intolerable. What should exist for us exists in the realm of the tolerable, or not at all. In this sense, all philosophy is algosophy, measurement of the fields of tolerances that are possible for us. Only the moderately heavy, the portable, even the light has the prospect of being incorporated into the corpus of an enduring understanding. From the unbearable, the over-heavy, the exalted, one can only know as much as remains in the traces of remembrance when one has survived it. Perhaps some theologies speak of precisely this when they say that the space for man was opened only by the retreat of God. Only indirect signs remain in our consciousness of the presence of the super-powerful, of the exaggerations, flashes, ecstasies, breakdowns. Only footsteps of the heavyweights that limit and warn us. No idea includes the measured in itself, and just as the eye cannot fix the sun or death, so no knowledge holds on to the disproportionate, hardly even finds a name for it. Chaos, hell, primal pain, sacred, sublime, being, nothingness, Dionysus, Shiva. What we know as rationality is a way to deal with the quote-unquote real, which only becomes possible through the mind's original and unmissable evasion of the incommensurable powers, a way of coping that turns towards the bearable, imaginable, well-established, agreeable. The agreeable originated in our necessary skirting of the unavoidable. This evasion as a dodging of the overly heavy is the basic effort around which all subjectivities are grouped. Subjectivity can only be lived as the self-imposed effort to remain within the sphere of the tolerable. It recognizes itself in its efforts to preserve itself, and if it lost that effort, it would no longer be subjectivity, but the all-encompassing unity of everything within an utterly alleviated consciousness. That is why pure theory is the ultimate luxury, something for dandies and suicides. Only they have access to the mystery of frivolity, for the alleviation of life until the annihilation of burdens. Ordinary mortals find life difficult. They remain condemned to the effort to alleviate their burdens to the best of their ability, but the dream of burdenlessness, ease, is alive in them too. They tirelessly strain to make it easier for themselves. Through their combined efforts, the process of civilization becomes an undertaking that brings about involuntary enlightenment. The enlightenment efforts of culture have themselves become the intolerable burden which they were supposed to evade by moving towards the tolerable.